Like and subscribe, or this will be in your bed tonight. r/ask Reddit by Planet Reddit. Students of Reddit, what is the most useless piece of information that you've been taught at school? Every year I was taught that teachers next year will only take work in cursive. Funny, my college physics teacher explicitly told us, if you write your essay by hand, use print. Print, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Is system point out point println also accepted? No, only print. Console point log, this is all you get now. Echo, this is all you get in return. You'll write all of your college papers in MLA format, so learn it, and learn it well. Get to college in its APA format or GTFO. Or Chicago. Throughout college I only used MLA for writing class freshman year and an English class I took senior year. Chicago is vastly superior though. Agree. Not even sure why anyone uses anything other than Chicago/Turabian. Inline citations are just downright annoying. Give me a superscript and a footnote any day of the week. You won't always have a calculator in your pocket, you know. Edit, I never said learning the maths was useless or unimportant. Being able to do basic mathematical processes is a useful skill. So y'all can stop replying to tell me how important learning maths is. I know, I get it. I very rarely use a calculator, I prefer doing mental maths. But the fact remains that the majority of the population is now carrying a calculator around with them, and therefore my initial statement is relevant to the question. What is the phrase that teachers use now instead? You have to check that the calculator had worked was the classic. For my kid I use you're not going to really want to be the dweeb standing in the middle of the store aisle calculating how much you're spending for one when you see a deal that's 4 for $10. Apparently this is the only thing that has seemed rational for her. That's basic math as well as being a funky example. If the base price of one is let's say $3, then without the deal you pay $12. With the deal you're still paying $3 for one, but you could get one for only $2.5 if you bought 4, but you're then paying $10. I actually think it's illegal to require the purchase of a minimum to get a sale price, unless it's a physical coupon in my state. Kiddo has learning challenges, so basic math being the example is helpful to help her want to learn it. My middle school math teacher flat-out refused to let us use a calculator until exams. It was mental or written math. It was more for us to be able to see the steps and see where we went wrong in a problem. I used to hate it. But then later in high school and college, and even the real world, I'm much better at my mental math calculations, and when I do write out problems I solve them step by step. That has saved me so many times throughout the rest of my life. I hated it. But it worked out in the end. You won't always have a charger for your phone, you know. The tongue map. It's false, and they still teach it after more than 20 years. So much of elementary school was incorrect. The 5 senses, the tongue map, the food pyramid. It's all bull. Wait, the food pyramid is wrong? So when the food pyramid was being created, tons of nutritionists and scientists made recommendations regarding serving size, types of food, etc. These same scientists then watched in horror as all their recommendations were thrown out in favor of food industry lobbyists. The largest problems were grain and cereal products forming the base of the pyramid, when veggies/fruit should be at the base of the pyramid, and dairy being treated like a necessary food group, when no one really needs dairy at all. Eat 11 servings of bread a day, and then try and figure out why you're fat. The whole food pyramid was a farce. Now they use the percent of your plate model. Even that model can be messy. For example, the Astor plate still recommends drinking milk. This is because the US Department of Agriculture exists, you guessed it, to support the interests of the agricultural industry, not to promote health in the population. Meanwhile, Harvard's healthy plate eliminates milk. Because surprise, Harvard isn't interested in licking the boots of dairy farmers. I have a conspiracy theory that the tongue map was a society-wide psychology experiment to see if people, presented with a patently false and easily disprovable premise, would still accept it instead of experimenting on their own. As a kid there was a year or two where I just thought my tongue was broken because my experiments didn't match the tongue map lol. I once spent a whole 5-hour lesson learning to delete a file folder and create a file folder on Windows 7 during a trade school course I paid $25k for. In 6th grade we spent a full hour learning about copy and paste because someone came in and said we had to. Even my teacher was disappointed. We all were super pissed at him and the work. My teacher never made us touch that assignment again. Did you learn the difference between move and copy? Because I forget which brings its permissions with it and which take on its parents to this day. Move keeps permissions. Copy changes permissions to match destination permissions. Badgers will bite your legs until they hear a crack, so put pine cones in your boots. I was told this almost every time we had a field trip to the woods. I was convinced badgers would be a constant danger my whole life. To this day, I've only ever seen a single badger, and he kept his distance. We left can get you soon. Badger badger badger, badger badger badger, badger 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 badger. Mushroom muse HROOM. I got taught about the bystander effect by the story of Kitty Genovese. Long story short, she got assaulted and stabbed, droves of people saw and nobody did anything. Conclusion. Bystander effect. It was only later that I learned much about it was plain wrong. There was at least one call to the police, someone came out to help the victim, a lot less people saw it happened than what the media portrayed etc etc. Really, a lot of those building stones of psychology are probably way less clear-cut than they are portrayed in first-year psychology textbooks. The most important thing I learned about Kitty Genovese was that she was a lesbian in a primarily LGBT+ neighborhood, to whom the cops were no friends. A big part of the reason people were afraid to call the cops was because they were worried the police's ill will might get turned on them, the residents of the community. It's still useful to teach people about the bystander effect, even if the specific story is wrong. If you know it exists, you're probably less likely to fall for it. And if that saves even a single life, it's worth it. Is it really so much to ask for only factual information to be taught in school? The effect itself is still true/factual, even if the event described was not. It was just a good example to explain it. But bystander effect is a real thing. Not defending the portrayal of the story as true though. Right, can we find a real example then? If you work hard now, you can relax for the next 40 years. Technically, you're still in the now. More like if you work hard now, you can relax when you're dead. Stay in shape, eat right, work hard, die anyway. That's my life motto. Homework should be an easy non-stress inducing task. Yeah, freaking right. A wise teacher once told me homework is supposed to be extra help, but that ones that need it don't do it, and the ones that don't need it do it. Ex-teacher here. I've taught in secondary schools, 11 to 16, but longer in primary, up to 11. Suitable and targeted homework at secondary level gives an opportunity for further practice which can help some students. Unfortunately, it's often an unnecessary chore for both student and teacher that takes up too much time for both groups. There's a lot of inequality inherent in this too, where and when they are able to do it. Hence homework clubs, so they can do it at school. I also firmly believe it is not necessary for primary aged pupils. All too often, it's the parents who demand it because they remember doing homework but forgetting they probably didn't when at primary. Primary aged children would be better off spending quality time with parents, pursuing their own hobbies, reading for pleasure or even doing bugger all but use their imaginations. When my eldest started school for the first 2 years there would be substantial amounts of homework every week. Which meant we had homework too. 2 years in, and they did a 180 and dropped homework entirely and instead said, do some reading every day. Thank you for supporting Planet Reddit. I love you. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.